Alright guys, this is the review video for the Unit 1 exam. Alright, so basically what we are going to be doing on this video is I'm going to review with you quickly just general concepts, principles of economics that are really important for you to know for the test tomorrow. So basically this whole unit is about basic economic concepts, so you got to think about scarcity, opportunity costs, and kind of what those things mean. So in economics, resources are considered to be scarce because they are limited in quantity, but in theory people's wants are unlimited. Now I know in actuality that's not the case because you can't have unlimited wants, but in general that's kind of what you should be thinking about when it comes to that concept of scarcity. The study of economics is how society chooses to divide up limited resources amongst those unlimited wants. There are differences between, there are two main types of economic thought. There's microeconomics, which focuses on individual or businesses in the economy and how they make choices, and there's macroeconomics, which studies large-scale problems and issues within the economy. This is obviously AP macroeconomics, but it's important to still know what those differences, what those are. So when it comes to the business cycle, remember that is just kind of a basic graph where we have GDP on the y-axis and we have time, right? And then we've got kind of in general, we have expansion, then we have periods of recession, expansion, recession, and expansion, okay? And then if we kind of focus on the trend line there, we can kind of see that in general the economy grows, but it has its peaks and its valleys. Okay, so just kind of know how to label it and everything. Remember, a recession, right, is bad in general because it has higher unemployment, right? And I'm going to kind of abbreviate this so I don't spend all my time writing this out. And expansion, all right, is good because unemployment decreases, all right? But there are some, with the recession, one of the good things about it is that inflation tends to go down. We're going to talk about that more in the next unit, so I'm not going to go too much into that. But with expansion, there can be higher rates of inflation. The next kind of graph and major concept that we talk about in this is the production possibility curve. And if you remember, the production possibility curve kind of shows us an economy that can produce two objects and how it chooses to produce that. So let's say that we have an economy that could make either 100 pairs of jeans or 200 t-shirts. Alright, I'm just writing that out there for you. So to draw that production possibility curve, this is what it would look like. Let's just go ahead and put jeans on the y-axis and t-shirts on the x-axis. We've got 100 here, and we'll put 200 there. I don't know what happened to the 2 there. There we go. And you'll actually add the lines to kind of connect those out. Sorry if it's not perfect. That's kind of the issue with doing this on the touchscreen. But that's how we get our production possibility curve. All right. Now remember, any point along the curve is going to be, we'll call that point A, B, and C. A through C is efficient. Alright, point D, alright, we'll say that that is inefficient. And point E is unattainable with the given resources. Alright, that's the key there, unattainable with given resources. Alright, so not that we can't eventually get there if there are shifts, but for now, we're going to just say that it is unattainable. If there is a shift, which we'll talk about here right now, shifts in the production possibility curve can be caused by a change in technology, all right, and a change in the quantity and or quality of resources. All right, if those things change, let's say technology increases, that would cause a shift to the right. If technology decreases, that would cause a shift to the left. So you got to kind of analyze it and think about that. With the production possibility curve, we can also have examples. There's movements that we need to know about, and movements are really within the production possibility curve. It's going to be caused by a economic choice. So that's choosing to have either more jeans and less t-shirts, or having more t-shirts and less jeans. And we kind of talked about that. Oops, I thought that was the eraser. We talked about that earlier in the unit, so that shouldn't be that hard to kind of understand. You can figure out the opportunity cost with the production possibility curve. So every time that this economy makes one pair of jeans, right, to do that we just divide by 100 there, divide by 100, and so we see every time they make one pair of jeans, they give up the opportunity to make 2 t-shirts. All right. Every time they make a pair of t-shirts, all right, we just come over here and we change that, divide by 200, divide by 200. We see they gave up the chance to make 1/2 a pair of jeans. All right. Now we're going to talk real quick about range of trade. I'm going to try and go through this as quickly as possible. Please, if you're still confused, look it up on my other videos where I go into more detail about it, or look it up online and some other places. Like I said, this is just going to be a quick review. I'm going to erase this here. Now, when we talk about range of trade and kind of why we study that with this, basically what we're trying to illustrate here is the concept of specialization and trade. All right, we are trying to show how if countries specialize in producing certain products and then trade with each other, they can both become better off, and we call that mutually beneficial trade. All right, so let's say we have one economy. Let's just keep using jeans and t-shirts. They can make 100 pairs of jeans or 200 t-shirts. All right, and we've got another economy that can make, say, 300 jeans or 900 t-shirts. Okay, and I'm just making these numbers up as I go along with you right here, just like you're back in class. All right, to figure out a mutually beneficial trade range, you need to first figure out opportunity costs for each product, and I'm not going to work out the math here because that would take a lot more writing. So I'm just going to kind of figure this out as we go. So in the first country, one pair of jeans is equal to 2 t-shirts. One t-shirt is equal to 1/2 of a pair of jeans. Okay, meaning every time they make a t-shirt, they give up a chance to make half pair of jeans. Every time they make jeans, they give up a chance to make 2 t-shirts. Now in this other country, all right, one pair of jeans, every time they make that, they give up the chance to make 3 t-shirts, and every time they make a t-shirt, they give up the chance to make 1/3 of a pair of jeans. Now, when we start looking at this, we have to understand 2 other concepts, and that's absolute and comparative advantage. Absolute advantage is being able to make more of a product. So in this case, we can take a look and we can see that country 2 has the absolute advantage in both jeans and t-shirts, but that does not mean that they should produce both of these. They can actually find a mutually beneficial trade range to where they are both going to be better off. All right, country 1 has the comparative advantage, which is being able to make something at a lower opportunity cost with jeans, right? They can make 100 pairs of jeans more efficiently than country 2 can make 300 pairs of jeans. All right, and we notice the comparative advantage because we're again looking for the lower opportunity cost. So in this case, country 1 would produce jeans and country 2 would produce t-shirts because 1/3 is less than 1/2. Okay, now if we are trying to figure out mutually beneficial range of trade, it exists between the opportunity cost for a product. So if we were trying to come up with a range of trade for one pair of jeans, we would say one pair of jeans for between this number here and that number there. So 2 to 3 t-shirts. So any number in between there will benefit both countries. So if it was 1 pair of jeans for 2.5 t-shirts, then both countries would become better off there. All right. You might see a question where they ask you, is trading 1 pair of jeans for 5 t-shirts beneficial for X or Y? And you would just have to analyze that based on who is producing it and exporting it and all that other stuff, okay? So from there, you should be able to figure that out if you can figure out what stuff would be mutually beneficial. All right, next we're going to talk about supply and demand. Remember, supply and demand just shows us in a competitive market the efficient price and quantity for a product. So this is what it kind of looks like. We've got price always on the y-axis, quantity on the x-axis. All right. The point at which supply equals demand is known as the equilibrium point. All right, and that's going to be the equilibrium quantity, and that's going to show us the equilibrium price. Right there, price 1, Q1, and so on and so forth. I don't know why my equilibrium point keeps disappearing. There we go. Don't get it. Okay, that's the equilibrium point. You guys know that. I know it. Everyone knows it. Okay, so what the supply and demand graph shows us is what will lead to the competitive price and quantity for a product. Let's say that this is the market for I guess we'll use avocados since that's what we used in class the other day. So yeah, and you also have to understand how shifting each curve impacts both price and quantity here. So when you do that, if supply increases, that's a shift right. If supply decreases, that's a shift left. If demand increases, that's a shift right. And if demand decreases, that's a shift left. Now, when you shift the curves, you will have new equilibrium point, okay? So here, where supply curve 2 and demand curve 2 intersect, that's the new equilibrium point. Y'all see that? So when we shift our curves, if you have multiple shifts happening in the same graph, like question 17 and 18 on your second review, then you need to know, you need to be able to follow it and see where that new equilibrium point is and see what happens to price and quantity for that product. All right. Now, there are lots of things that will cause shifts for both supply and demand. Review those on your own. I'm not going to write them out here. Just know for demand, it's going to be things that deal with consumers. So you're looking at, changes in income, changes in the number of consumers, and those types of things, right? Anything that impacts the consumer is going to be demand. Supply, on the other hand, is going to come from businesses. Anything that impacts businesses or the suppliers, that's going to cause the shift in the supply curve. So keep that in mind. So it's going to be things like subsidies, taxes, prices of inputs, and all those other things are going to impact the supply. You need to not only know what causes those shifts, but also you're going to need to know whether it will lead to an increase or a decrease in supply and demand. All right, so please review your notes, watch those other videos to get with the specifics, because I'm bumping up on the max time I want to have to record this. Otherwise, I know it'll be a struggle for you guys to watch this before the exam tomorrow. If you all have any questions, definitely write them down and bring them to class. I almost forgot to go over price ceilings and price floors here real quick, so let me do that. All right, so just remember, ceilings and floors are kind of opposite from what you would expect. And I'll just do this basically. We have our price, we have our quantity, we have our supply curve, and we have our demand curve here. That's the equilibrium point, price 1, and quantity. At the equilibrium price, that'll be the price and quantity. A price ceiling is going to be a point below the equilibrium point because it is going to prevent the price from going above a certain point. A price floor, right, is going to be above the equilibrium price because it's going to keep prices from going down below that. Okay, and remember, price floors help producers, price ceilings in theory help consumers, but it leads to inefficiency because price ceilings, we're going to end up with a shortage, and price forwards, we're going to have a surplus. All right, that's it, guys. Good luck on your test. You'll do well. Not worried about it. Have a good one.